Joining me now is the UFC bantamweight fighter who takes on Tom Duquesnoy at UFC London on March 17th. It is Terrion Ware here on the program for the very first time. Terrion, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking, and really appreciate you taking the time just a week out or so from the fight. Gotta ask you first off, what was your reaction when you got the call to fight Tom Duquesnoy? Because he's a fairly hyped up fighter.
I said yes immediately. I mean, it was something that, when I got into the UFC, people were asking me, what were some of the matchups that I would like, and he was one of the guys that was on the list. That'll be a fun fight. He's a really good striker. I'm a good striker as well. I think it'll be a good, fun fight for the fans as well. So, I said immediately yes.
And this fight wasn't announced all that long ago, considering the card is a week away. How long exactly have you had to prepare for the fight?
I had about 6 or 7 weeks. So they let me know that it was in the works. But obviously we can't announce it until they're ready to announce it. So they didn't announce it until like 4 weeks out. So I had already known for like 2 or 3 weeks. So it was about 6 or 7 weeks, and I was already training. But there's the possibility. I was hoping for that the card they actually just passed out in Vegas, either for that or for this card. So I was getting prepared for either one of those dates.
So you wouldn't consider this a short notice fight at all?
Not at all.
Okay. You have had 2 very tough fights in the UFC. The last one was pretty close as well. You, of course, debuted against Cody Stamann. Another fight that came together pretty short notice. Both you made your debut for that fight. Then you went on to fight Sean O'Malley. And keep in mind, I mean, Cody Stamann just beat Brian Caraway, and he's now ranked in the division. Sean O'Malley, because of who he is, his character, he's very hyped up. As you know, at this point in time, he's coming off his second win. And Tom Duquesnoy, it's another tough fight, but I would assume you're not really a guy to back down from a challenge.
No, not at all, man. Like I said from the beginning, I got into the sport to be the best. I know, my last 2 fights, didn't go my way. But if you look at those fights, and with a fair assessment, I'm right in there with those guys. A couple of mistakes, that I made that, that cost me the fight. I can go in there, correct, and win. And I honestly believe I can compete with anybody in the world in my weight class. It's just a matter of, things clicking for me for that night. There's some things in that fight, that I had to go back and correct, and, that's what I've done. So, they call and they ask me, to fight Dillashaw. They ask me to fight Garbrandt. Cruz, Jimmy Rivera, any of those guys, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to say yes immediately. I'm confident that I can compete with any of those guys, and, I'm going to go out there and, do my absolute best and, not regret anything.
What do you feel went wrong in your first 2 fights? You mentioned that there were a few things you had to go back and correct. I don't want you to give away your game plan or anything, but what sort of have you corrected or worked on since those fights?
Well, mainly it's been the wrestling. With Cody, going to that fight, it was on short notice. Didn't get a lot of chance to, see what that guy was about. A couple of fights that I had watched, he mostly stood up. He took guys down as well too, but he didn't really show much in terms of, you watch a guy like Khabib or something like that. Going into the fight, I didn't think he would shoot as much as he did, and I didn't realize how good his wrestling was. And again, it was on 8 days' notice, so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for that. And then in the O'Malley fight, I wanted to push the pace like I always do. And in that second round, I had him hurt. I had him on the ropes. And, I started swinging for the fences as opposed to being, normally calm and collected like how I normally fight. And, I swung a lot. And he had good head movement, and I missed. And I kind of burned myself out in that second round. So going to the third round, it was 1-1. It would have been mine for the taking, but I burned myself out. So I learned from those 2 things, and, going in, having to, work on my wrestling a lot more, and also just, staying composed. And, in that moment, it was a high-profile fight against me and O'Malley. They put us in the co-main event, which was unexpected, by both of us. And, I got a little excited, and I tried to finish the fight as opposed to letting the finish come to me. So, those are two lessons that I learned. And, so coming into this fight now with Tom being out in London, we're on the main card. It's another hyped-up fight. I'll be able to compose myself a lot better this time around.
Does this fight make sense to you, considering you're on a 2-fight skid in the UFC? He's coming off the first UFC loss and first loss of his career, or were you a little surprised that they put you guys together?
No, not at all. Like I said, again, I've been vocal about guys that I would like to match up with, and he was one of them. So I don't know if maybe somebody heard that. I don't know if they were just looking at, to match up guys with, good styles. I mean, the last thing you want to do is when you're building prospects for the division is, put those guys in bad matchups consistently. And, so maybe they felt like putting him with a wrestler or whatever would be a bad matchup for him, and vice versa. Same with me. They figure put two strikers together, have them go out and battle out. They're going to put on a good show, on a good card. And, the fans in London, they love action. They're really passionate about the MMA. So,
So you cut out there for a second, but I think we got the most of what you were saying. As far as the Duquesnoy fight, are you considering it? Do you look at it as a must-win fight for you just because you're on a 2-fight skid in the UFC? And to put it bluntly, 3 losses in a row is often your golden ticket out of the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, my back's against the wall, man. I know that, But honestly, going in with the Cody fight as well too, it was short notice. I was told I wasn't promised if I didn't win that fight, that I would have another fight as well. And then so going into the O'Malley fight, coming off that loss, honestly, to be honest, when I left that cage, I thought that was it for me. But they really liked the fight, and then, Shelby told me that night he would bring me back. And, both those fights have been basically pressure cookers for me. And I mean, as you can see, pressure, it doesn't get to me. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm gonna fight my butt off like I always do, and may the chips fall where they may. But yeah, my back's against the wall. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, for me, when the pressure's on, I feel like that's when I perform at my best.
Is there any chance at all that I hate thinking this way because you always have to be confident and stay that way, but anything can happen in MMA. Say you come short in London, is there any way you stick around? Say it's a fight of the night or a really fun fight, just because Stamann's ranked, O'Malley's hyped up, Duquesnoy is and was and still is hyped up. Is there any chance to give you a bit of leeway for that reason, or is it sort of win or gone for this fight?
Yeah, man, I would hope so. I would hope so that I've impressed them enough and shown them enough that I belong there, and that there's a couple other guys on the roster up and down in different weight classes that have lost 3 or 4 in a row, and they were kept on just because they're exciting fighters, and they come to bring in. They're just not they're not going there getting knocked out in the first round or anything like that. They're putting on a show, and they're fighting their hearts out, and the promotion stuck with them and has given them fights. So I would certainly hope so if that were the case. But I can't hang my hat on that. I got to go out there and get the job done. But I would certainly hope so that if for whatever reason I come up short, that I've at least impressed them enough to keep me on the roster. But like I said, again, not hanging my hat on it. I've prepared really hard for this camp. I'm going to go out there and fight hard as I always do, and hopefully I can come away and get the job done, and earn my contract with a win.
How difficult was it to swallow your last 2 fights, just because you were on a tear before the UFC? You had 4 wins in a row, your last one being a knockout, very impressive stuff, and then to come up short in both octagon outings. What's your mentality like coming off those fights?
It just makes me more makes me hungrier. Any losses I've always come back. I've come back stronger. I've come back better. So for me, I obviously, for any fighter, you lose, you don't want to lose. You're gonna get down on yourself a little bit. So I took a couple weeks off and let me feel sorry for myself for a little bit, and then get back to the gym and get back to work, and and not harp on it. In this game, you never want to get too high, you never want to get too low. Try to stay even keeled as much as you can. And, so I took those losses. I took them like a man. But got back into the gym and, improve upon the things I need to improve upon. And, now it's just get back after it.
So you're fighting in London for this card, for this fight. That it's your first time fighting there, and your first time fighting out of the U.S. How cool is that? Are you looking forward to fighting in Europe for the first time, fighting outside of the U.S. for the first time, or is it a little nerve-wracking just because you don't maybe necessarily know exactly what to expect?
I mean, there's gonna be a little bit of nerves, obviously, when you're going out of the country, fighting out of the country. In terms of you're not used to the usual spots. You're not sure how the food's gonna be. You're gonna have everything. But I got a great team. My manager Jason House, he's well experienced. He has a lot of fighters in the UFC. He's been to London before, so I'm gonna have him out there with me as well. So he'll he's always taking care of me, and so I won't have to worry about that issue. And then as far as just fighting over there in London, I know that's Tom's spot. I know he fought in the BAMA organization. He fought in London a bunch of times. So I'm excited about that, man. I don't really care about being booed or anything like that. He's gonna be the fan favorite. There's gonna be more motivation for me. And but yeah, I mean it's 100% exciting. When I got into the sport, I knew the possibilities that it could take me and be able to travel around the world and fight abroad and fight in front of different crowds. Once this fight was announced, I've had so many UK fans, hit me up on social media, send me messages, and let me know that they're fans of mine as well too. So I'm gonna have some people in the crowd that that be cheering for me, hopefully as well too. And I'm already feeling the love from the European fans already. So I'm just super excited to go out there and put on a show for them.
You, of course, haven't been out of the country for fighting. Have you done a bit of traveling just non-fighting purposes, just vacation, or any other reason? Have you been to Europe before?
No, this is my first time in Europe. I mean, I've been out of the United States before for other reasons, but this is actually my first time in Europe.
Just out of curiosity, where have you traveled to?
Traveled to South America, so I've been to like Mexico. I've been to Brazil. Been to Guatemala. A little known fact, I'm actually half Guatemalan. A lot of people don't know that. So I've been to those places in South America.
Very cool. Funny enough, I know you really couldn't care less about me, but I'm actually going to Europe for the first time too on the day you fight.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully after the fight, we can hit up a pub together or something.
Well, I won't be in London. I'll be in Italy actually. So it's still 9-hour drive away. So I don't think that's happening, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny how we're both, haven't been. Well, you've been out of the continent. I haven't, but yeah, going to Europe for the first time, both of us, same timetable. It's pretty cool. I would imagine you've watched quite a bit of Duquesnoy's loss to Stamann, just considering you fought Stamann too.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of his fights, and that's one of the fights that we watched as well too. You always want to, you look at the fights, you want to watch the fights that your opponent does well in. You want to see the things that he does well, and try to be able to nullify those. And then you also want to watch the fights that he lost and see what other guys had some success, in terms of what may be a possibility if you go into the fight. You might see those things and you remember those things and try to exploit them. But I'm also going to expect him to be watching that fight as well and try to correct those mistakes. So I'm not going in there harping on, looking for him to make those mistakes and waiting for him. But having that in the back of my mind, that if I see him start doing some of those things that he made mistakes with, be able to capitalize those on the fly.
So, as you mentioned earlier, this fight is on the 4-fight main card. It's a pretty big spot. Of course, he's from the area, so it's sort of, him, the hometown crowd. For Tom Duquesnoy, anyways, you're sort of going to enemy territory. Firstly, sort of two-part question. When you fought in the co-main against Sean O'Malley last December, were there extra nerves just because it was a big spot, co-main event, that, as you said, you didn't really expect or see coming? And has that prepared you for this main card spot?
No, with the O'Malley fight, it didn't give me nerves. I got excited, and I actually think I got too excited. That's why, in that second round, I had him hurt. I busted up his nose. He was backing away. He was getting a little tired. I stepped on the gas pedal, and I stepped on the gas pedal a little too hard because I was trying to finish him. I was like, man, this would be a great way. I know he's hyped up. We're on the co-main event. We're on Fox Sports 1. Millions of people are watching us. I got too excited, and but I wouldn't say nerves really. I wasn't. I just got too excited. So I think with this, having that experience, being out here, being on the main card in a big fight, having that experience is gonna, help me. And if I get into a spot where, I have him hurt or I have him on the ropes or whatever, I'm gonna be reminded of myself, not to get too overzealous and not punch myself out. But, to stay even keeled and, be able to think, smoothly and get the job done.
Duquesnoy's a striker, you're a striker. This seems like a fight of the night candidate to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, if people don't know, I mean, I know the hardcore fans are probably looking at it, and you know, they know that this is potential fight of the night. It's going to be one of the most exciting fights on the card. But for all the casual fans out there who don't know, man, I'm telling you, like, tune into this fight. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a war. And, you know, you're going to see two guys who they love to get after it. And it's a fight fan's dream.
Well, it's UFC Fight Night 127 in London, England on March 17th. Terrion Ware, thank you so much for the time you're taking on Tom Duquesnoy. Last question, how do you get the job done?
I get the job done, second round or third round TKO.
Excellent. Terrion, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, let my audience know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at @flash_MMA_UFC. You can find me on Twitter, just Flash MMA. On Facebook, just my name, Terrion Ware, or actually TJ Ware. And then, you know, shout out to my sponsors, Body Armor, Reebok, and shout out to my fight team, you know, from Fight Science, A4, Black House MMA as well. They helped me out a lot for this camp. And shout out to my sports management team, Iridium Sports, Jason House, and then also all the media outlets as well as you, Nick. I appreciate you guys, you know, bringing us on and helping us get our names out there. So thank you very much for having me as well.